Hi, this is Sam. I'm here with Constantine in the lab. This is a quick instructional for volunteers that are helping us with the face shield project. So instead of giving the spiel to each one of you individually, I figured I'd make this video. It would be easier to kind of coordinate. Some of you may be working at home on this project. We may be giving some of these printed components to you for you to clean at home and then bring back to us. So this is just a quick instructional on this. Before we get started on this project, on the instructions for this project, just a quick safety recap. We do want you to wear gloves while you're working on these, and we want you to wear protective eyewear. There are going to be little pieces of debris that come flying out, and we just want to make sure that we're doing things safely. Obviously, because of coronavirus going around, we also want you to make sure that you're practicing safe social distancing. If you're working here in the lab, we want to make sure that students are as far apart as possible and they're washing their hands before they get started. All of these materials are going to get disinfected, but we want to make sure that we're doing everything as safely as possible. If you're working with any tools, it's a good idea to have a first aid kit around. If you're using a Dremel for any of this, make sure you're paying attention while you're doing that. Scraper obviously has sharp edges, so we want to make sure that you're paying attention while you're working with this. So for one, this is what we're printing here for the headband portion. It prints in stacks of 4, and we need to separate these. Now, the easiest way to separate them, if they're not coming apart easily, is to take a pair of cutting pliers and just snip at the seam of the headband. So you'll see it like that, and you can actually do it at this portion of the headband as well. You take a little snip right at the seam, and it comes apart at that point. Usually it comes apart pretty easily after that. So that's, a lot of times you can just pull them apart by hand, but if you're having issues, the best way to do it is to use a set of these cutting pliers here. Now, when we actually have a headband portion here, this is obviously what the visor is going to connect to. You can look here, there's 4 connection points where the clear visor is going to connect. So just to give you an idea of what we're doing with this project, we are printing the headband and a bottom reinforcement for a full face shield. So it doesn't include the elastic part, and it doesn't include the clear visor material, which our partners take care of after we turn it over to them. So you can imagine this is the way it's going to look. It's going to have the headband portion up here and a visor material to make sure that the visor, the clear visor, has the right curvature and it's actually protecting the face. And that's what we're making. So you can imagine this is why it's so critical to clean this inside portion here and make sure that those contact points for the visor are nice and clean. And we want to make sure we keep a good count on everything that we're doing. So as you're working, make sure that you're counting each of the headbands and bottom pieces individually. We want to make sure that when we turn over our headbands to our partners, that they have a good count and they know exactly what they're working with. So when we're cleaning these headbands, primarily what we want to do is use a scraper tool and clean very well at this point here where it's actually going to make contact with somebody's head. You can see here, this is the elastic material is going to wrap around here, and somebody's forehead is going to be touching this. So all of these burrs, they all need to be gone. So between a scraper and some sandpaper, we can take care of most of this. So all we want to do with a scraper is just go ahead real firmly and start removing those burrs. Now you can see here, most of it has been removed. I can probably go over it a little bit finer, but after that point, we want to take our sandpaper and make sure it's nice and filed down. Okay. So once we get it nice and filed down, that's okay for that portion. The other points we want to really look at and make sure that we have clear are the contact points for the visor. So in this case, this was the top headband, so that printed pretty clean. There's really not much you have to do there. There's some bit of loose string that it's a good idea to just get rid of. You can just usually pull it with your hands. But everything else on this is kind of superficial. It doesn't change any of the functionality. So as long as this part is clear here and we're clear around these contact points for the visor, this one is pretty much ready to go. Now you'll notice some of them come out a lot worse. These come out in batches, and some are just more problematic. Some of them have all these brims around the edge, and we have to remove these if we're going to use these headbands. So sometimes you can remove it just by hand, you can start pulling at it, but sometimes if it's a little bit more resistance, what you want to do is you can either take the cutting pliers from before or take a set of diagonal cutters and just go along the edge there and start cutting the material off. Now you'll notice also these support structures, that's the way they're printed in stacks. These usually just come off by hand. If you need to, you can take a set of pliers. Let's see a set of pliers here. Take a set of pliers, just grab it around, and it comes right off. So that's it for the headband portion. All right, so this is an example of a bottom reinforcement piece and just how we want to clean it. We do want to remove these little supports that printed out here. They don't always have them, but in this case they do. Best way to do it is just firmly take the scraper, push away on it. It usually comes right off. Some of the harder pieces, maybe you do want to use a Dremel. The other thing is we want to make sure to take out these little support structures that are printed on the inside. Again, you can take the corner of your scraper here, just pull those right out. Now the visor material does connect at that portion, so we want to make it as easy as possible once we turn these over that they can connect the visor and just right away get started on the face shields and everything. So this is just to make it easier for them, but it's obviously a pretty critical part here. So again, just kind of clean up with a scraper. None of this makes contact with anybody, so a lot of this cleaning is superficial, but we just want to really make sure that the cleaning that actually affects the functionality of the printed part is what's done and completed. Now, if we're looking at the bottom reinforcement here, we'll notice that they're all printed with these brims here. Now, preferably these would come off by hand, right? We can just grab them and sort of pull them, but that's not always the case. Again, we're going to take the diagonal cutters here. We're going to start snipping around the edges here. So once we see that starts coming off, maybe we can take it by hand. If not, just keep working it with the diagonal cutters, and we're going to take that all the way down. Now, just to give you guys some idea on the time, this shouldn't take you more than a minute for these bottom reinforcements. Probably for the headbands, it's 2 to 3 minutes a piece. Some of the more difficult ones may take you a little bit more time, but this is just a numbers game. We really want to try to get through these as quickly as possible. And as far as the bottom reinforcements, we do a general kind of cleaning as well. This doesn't make contact with the person at all, so we can keep it in this way. We're just going to clean it up a little bit, make sure that the visor material would be able to fit into the center, right, so that the spacing looks correct. And this is basically ready to go. So we don't want to spend too much time on these. And this is at the end of the video, but the other thing I should mention is if you're working in the lab, please wear protective eyewear and wear gloves. We're maintaining safe social distancing during this time, and we want to make sure that everybody stays healthy and safe. Thank you for watching, and thank you for volunteering your time to help us with this.